Right now, the US has a massive housing problem and the American dream seems to be dying right before our eyes. We can't actually afford to buy a house in the state we want to live in. How did we get to this point, and is there a solution to the problem? Well, today I'm going to show you how we got here and how you can actually buy a house. Let's talk. Right now, out of all 50 US states, no one has a high enough average income to be able to actually qualify for the median home price. And if you're a millennial just like me, then our parents had it great. They had cheap homes with enough income to be able to actually afford their house. They truly had what we call the American dream. Nowadays, we have no idea what that even looks like or what it's supposed to be. Now, all of this could be due to the pandemic that hit, inflation, could be a political thing, but it could also be caused by the rich and the wealthy. But fear not, because by the end of this video, you will know what the problem is and how to maneuver to actually buy that house. Let's take a step back, look throughout history and see how the median home price has risen, but the income has not kept up. Back in 1970, the median home price was around $23,000, while the average income sat just above $11,000. Moving to the 1980s, the average home price was around $64,000, while the average income sat just shy of $18,000. Moving to the 1990s, the greatest decade ever, home prices were around $122,000, while the average salary was just shy of $30,000, sitting at $29,000. Moving up to Y2K, year 2000, average home price was $167,000, while income was just shy of $42,000. Moving to 2010, which some people call a lazy generation, average home price was at $222,000, while the median income was at a measly $49,000. And finally, moving up to 2020, average home price has skyrocketed to $336,000, while the average income was only $68,000. And if you look at now, only 4 short years later, the median home price in America is $457,000 compared to an income of only $75,000. Those numbers are just preposterous considering how much home prices have risen, and if you look, income has not matched it. Now let's take a look at how much you actually needed to make in each decade to buy the median home price. I did make the adjustments for the interest rates per that decade based on the average. In 1970, you could afford a max purchase price of around $61,000. 1980 was $74,000. 1990, $143,000. In 2000, it jumped up to $243,000. 2010 was $221,000. And now this is when we really start to see the home prices rise, but the income just simply doesn't. In 2020, $365,000. Now granted, a lot of people during the pandemic were losing their jobs, their income was getting cut in half, if not all the way completely, and so they had to adjust the rates tremendously down to historical lows to try to compensate, but it almost didn't help. It actually ended up hurting a lot of people because during that time, buying a house was crazy competitive. You had people with a lot of cash and a lot of money swooping in, buying these houses that are overpriced, getting a super low interest rate. And if you're a regular average person like me and like you had no choice but to try to compete and overpay for a house just to get into it. But here's where things really took a turn for the worse. Right now in 2024, the average person can only afford to buy a $278,000 house. And if you remember how much I told you the average house is right now, it's almost double that at $457,000. So how on earth did we get here in such a short time? Well, that's where things like inflation, which currently sits around 3.1%, COVID and the pandemic, maybe bad economy, politics, which definitely seems to get in the way of the average person buying a house. But these are just some of the things that have gotten in the way and have hurt the housing market. But is it actually all bad? Is there some sort of bright spot in real estate? Well, actually, yes. With inflation trending down and hopefully unemployment going down as well, it looks like they're gonna be able to start lowering rates to help people buy houses. But be wary, if the rates drop really fast, home prices are going to skyrocket. And if you can get into a house right now, do it. Let me explain a great strategy that you can get into a house right now and not be hurt by high interest rates. There's a lot of first-time homebuyer programs out there, things like FHA that'll help you with down payment assistance. If you happen to live in a more rural area, something that does not have a big city, you could get a rural development loan if you match the income qualifications, and that is going to give you 0% down. And of course, there's the home hacking strategies that I love to talk about. There's an FHA loan program, 3.5% to 5% down, where all you have to do is occupy it for a minimum of 1 year. So knowing that information, go out, look for either a duplex, a triplex, or a fourplex. And if you live in one, you can rent out the other 1, 2, or 3 units, and hopefully those tenants will pay your mortgage. And if you're lucky, you'll be able to live there rent-free and get some extra cash along the way. Okay, so back to the point of buying a house now and not worrying about the interest rates. What do I mean? Well, if the predictions are correct and interest rates do drop significantly and home prices rise, you're gonna be caught in another buying war that you don't wanna be caught in. And you're probably shaking your head right now saying, why would I not worry about these rates? They're gonna kill me. That's a huge thing to worry about, isn't it? Well, the strategy is this. You buy something now that is reasonably priced, that hasn't been marked up like crazy, because there's this huge bidding war. And once the interest rates do come down, you could always refinance and hopefully easily get a 2% lower rate. If rates right now are sitting right around 7% and they happen to drop to 5%, maybe even lower if you're able to buy them down, then you could get a house right now, good, fairly priced, and in the future, refinance that rate, so now you have the best of both worlds. On one hand, you'll have a low interest rate, and then on the other hand, you'll have a home that you didn't overpay for, so you'll have a lot more equity. And by having that equity, the bank will look at that house way more favorable than if you overpaid. Now let's say you live in a big city, and you like living in that big city, and there's nothing wrong with that. Well, this is where you're gonna have to get creative. One thing that you could easily do is go out and find something that's a little cheaper that may need a good bit of work. It's still livable and you can still live there comfortably, but it's not maybe your dream house. So what you could do is you could buy this house, put some money to fix it up, and then easily refinance it and have a lot more equity built in. Yes, this may take some time and it may take a few years to do, but it can be so worth it if you end up with the house that you really want and you didn't overpay. Something that could definitely help you is if you get a HELOC or some sort of hard money loan to make this happen. Now, I know some of you are thinking, well, I just want to move to another state. It's too expensive. I live in California. I don't make hardly enough money. I can maybe get a remote job. Where on earth can I live? Well, you are in luck, because I just did a video where I ranked all 50 states. And if you want to know where the absolute best states to live in are, click right here.